However, Neshames HaMalachim, the Neshamas of the Malachim, Shiyatzu Mezivik HaNeshikim, that come from a zivik of kissing. Malachim come from a zivik Yeshikin, from a kiss. And the Neshamas Yisrael come from a zivik, what's called a zivik gufni, a physical zivik. And it sounds bepashtus that the Malachim are in a higher madrege, because Malachim is a zivik Neshikin, and by Gufas is only a zivik gufni. But as a chassidus, the zivik gufni of the Neshamas is a milo of the zivik Neshikin and Malachim, because it's a hamshach of etzim. Mashenkin, zivik Neshikin is only a ha'ara. He says, I want you to know that the Neshamas of Malachim, as well as the neshamas of people that exist in Atzilus, which is of course the highest madrigas of neshamas. The way they come out from a union of Zunda Atzilus, those neshamas that exist in Atzilus before the descent to Bri Yitzir Nasiya. Most neshamas, you hear, most neshamas exist in Biyah, in the lower worlds. And they exist in Biyah, they have yeshus. Okay? Now we're talking about the neshamas of Atzilus, which are very high madrigas. They're not independent beings. It's not that in Atzilus you have yeshus, an independence of any type, any way, shape, or form. Ella, but rather, they're similar to the godliness itself, but it is b'tzimtzum atzum, with a huge contraction. Uke'ein, it would be slightly similar to Hakelim, the Yitzviras Atzilus, the vessel, the 10 Yitzviras Atzilus themselves, which this again Hakelim started with, and saying, listen, how could you say that Kelim of Atzilus are they're gvul? And we answer this, live behind the yad mi'ayin the yesh. Neshamas Yisrael and the Neshamas of Malachim of Atzilus are similar to Kelim the Atzilus. Zokter aber Shebechin is gvul, they're limited, through the contraction of Eidah Intzaf kav. Hamalubish b'neran shalahem, which is revealed in the limited nefesh ruach neshama of Kelim of Atzilus, and also the neshamas of Malachim and the neshamas Yisrael. Okay, just like the first tzimtzum creates a possibility for worlds. Similarly, in Atzilus itself, there's a tzimtzum of the Ein Sof to be able to create the neshamas of Malachim and the neshamas Yisrael.
So 1 second, they are not nifred; they're just something.
Right. Let's continue. Moreover, there are certain neshamas that not only are they godliness the way they are in Atzilus, but even after they come down to this world, to the early tzaddikim, after says Alter Rebbe, it's possible that they didn't change in their essence, to be separate from godliness. And faket, it's possible that you have very high neshamas that not only are they godliness in Atzilus, but the godliness even as they come lamata. And basically the point is like this: when you have something that comes from Atzilus, when it goes into Bria, it becomes Bria. When you have something that comes from Ein Sof, which is higher than Atzilus, even when it comes lamata, it continues to be Atzilus. He says there are certain neshamas that come from Atzilus, but because the emes is their shadish is higher, even the way they come into Bria Yitzir Nasiya, they remain godly. Right. We're talking about those neshamas that don't get transformed.
So what does that mean?
Practically means you have to continue. And therefore, these neshamas would pass away when they were about to sin, before they sinned, because they were godliness, and godliness cannot sin. So in other words, it wasn't the pshat they should kill them. The moment it became a possibility they should sin, their metzias couldn't be, so they passed away. Because even in Asiya, they were godly. The card of Leibniz Alter Rebbe, it seems to me, Shagam, not just the neshamas of Atzilus, of this higher level, he says, are godliness even lamata. But Shagam, Allah, Medivaves, Alma, the Yasib, Gogalta, the Arach, V'zo. There are also the thousands and tens of thousands of worlds that it says in Zayar sit in the skull of Keser and the skull of Zeirampan of Atzilus, Ein and Alman Mamish. They're not the world's Mamish. Like the chambers of Atzilus, which are element of Yesh, but rather like Neshamas HaMalachim, like the souls of angels, that come from the zivik called the kiss, and they're really a lakus. But Nikru Alman, they're only called worlds, only when you compare it to Keset and to Zoh itself, they're called Alman. In other words, if Olam means Helen, compared to Keset, the Nevrayim of Keset are called worlds. If Olam means Helen, the Nevrayim that come from Zoh, compared to Zoh, are called worlds, but they're godly. So now we have a very interesting thing. We started off talking about Bria, said that there's Bria which is Yesh. Then we went backwards, we said that Natzilus is Yesh and Nechalos. Then we went even higher, that the Malachim, the Guf of the Malachim is also Yesh. And then we started to say that there are certain creations that are godliness in the Bechin of Tzimtzum. The Neshamas of the Malachim, the Neshamas Yisrael, and now we mentioned a whole bunch of spiritual worlds which exist in Kesed and Zoh, that they too are godliness. However, Einen Elokus Mamish, they're still not godliness. Mamish, live Yesh Miyayin to create Yesh Miyayin. Heisus Aseh. What the Rebbe is saying, there's three Madregas. The lowest Madrega is Yesh, Nivroim, the separate from godliness. Right? The Kalim of Briyat in Asiyah, separate from godliness. The Oy Nefesh Ruach in Biyah, separate from godliness. The Gufes of Malachim and Atzilus and the Echos of Atzilus, separate from godliness. That's level 1. Level 2, there are other things which are godly, but the nature of their godliness is not Iyavach Hayechad, Iyavach Mechad. They're not Dovek and Atzmus. In other words, Malachim and the Neshamas of Malachim and the Neshamas Yisrael, they're godliness. But they can't create Yesh Mi'ayin. Why? Because they become separate from this Dveikus. What is the whole point? Hashem has the power to create Yeshus. How does that power reach us? Through the oil, through the Eir Mein Amoil. They're separate from the oil, they lack the Eir Mein Amoil quality, and therefore they cannot create Yesh Mi'ayin. Me'acha, the reason is, Shekva Yotzu v'nifredu me'akelim the Yitzfiris. They have gone out and separate from the Kelim of the 10 Sfiris. Shabahen, that in the Kelim of the 10 Sfiris, Meluba Shakav Me'edein Tov, is revealed, the Kav which comes from Edein Tov, and it's only because in the Kelim, you have the revelation of the Kav from Edein Tov, that the Kelim are able to create Yesh Mi'ayin. Why? Because Sheiru Ke'ein Amoit. Why is that like the source? And what is the source? This means the Eibishter himself. That's the Eibishter himself. And what do we know about the Eibishter himself? What does that mean? What's the truth of the Eibishter? The Eibishter created himself. The Eibishter created himself is a fancy way of saying it was never created. Because the Eibishter was never created, he has no dependency. He doesn't need anybody. If he has no dependency, he's Yesh. He's a real Yesh, called Yesh HaMit. He truly doesn't need anybody. He has no, he's not an effect of any cause that precedes him. What's the fundamental definition of God? What's the most basic touch of the word God? That nobody made it. That's touch. Who made God? The answer is the touch of the word is nobody made it. Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. Think about it. Because the very essence of the Eibishter is that nobody made him. Who levade, he and he alone, has the power and the possibility, live it, to make something else that should be yesh, that should be independent of the Eibishter, or at least perceive itself as being independent of the Eibishter, as we had in the Shir of Hey Tishrei. Because it's coming from the Eibishter in a way of me'ayim ve'efes hamuchat mamish. The literal translation of these words is from nothingness mamish. And the philosophical relation of the words is coming from the Eibishter, but it's coming from the Eibishter in a way that it says, I don't know my source. I'm independent. I am from where? B'lishum ila v'siba acher, without any cause, direct or indirect, that kedemas the yesh hazeh, which is known as the source of this yesh. When something exists and it knows it comes from something else, that's not yeshes. When something exists and has no sense that it comes from anything else, in other words, it has a sense of total independence, that's yeshes. Where does the Yeshus, how does it happen that down here there are creations that deny having a source? It comes from the Eibishter himself. Okay? Now, so, the Eibishter himself creates Yeshus. But how? This is Mendy's question. How? Through Hishtalshelus. The key ingredient that we're so far focusing on that helps affect the creation of Yeshus is Eid Tov. How does Eid Tov help the creation of Yeshus? Because of Eid Mein Amor, the light is like the source. And because the light is like the source, even though when you meet the light is totally bottled, it's dormant in a hidden way, carrying the quality of Yeshus. And therefore, when the time comes, the quality of Yeshus emerges, and it creates a Yesh. So what's the key to creating Yeshus? A connection to Atzmus. Dveikus Neibishter. This is called Iyavach HaYechad, Iyavach HaMechad. This is true only the Eidos of Atzilus and the Kelim of Atzilus. Not Malachim. Not the Neshamas of Malachim, not the Neshamas Yisrael, and for sure not the Kufas of Malachim and the Yichot. You understand? So what did the Alter Rebbe just tell us? There's different kinds of materials. Some are Mamash Nivra in B'yah, some are Nivra in Atzilus, some are Lakus in Atzilus, but they're called Yotzu v'Nifredu. They're not Dovek and the Kav. They're not Dovek in himself. None of the above could create Yesh Mi'ayin, because Yesh Mi'ayin comes from the Eibishter himself, through the Kav. But the oidus of Atzilus and the kelim of Atzilus, because of Iva Chayechad and Iva Gamoyechad, like I told you before, Iva Gamoyechad Lecheiras, even the Chitzedus of Kelim, the Atzilus, that's how Yesh B'Yayin happens. You got it. You got it. Ukidei, in an order. Sheyi Ayesh Hazeh Nivra. That in fact, Ayesh, a being that should perceive itself independent, should come into existence. Should be Bekeach Ein Sof, from the power of the infinite Eibishter. And it should be Bal Gavul Umida. It should be measured and with a limit. In other words, Hashem is infinite. The Ein Sof is infinite. How does the infinite light make a finite creation? And the answer is Nisla B'Sheit Ein Sof B'Kelim Yitziras D'Atzilus. The infinite light of the Eibishter goes into the vessels of Atzilus. And the vessels of Atzilus are limited. And at the same time, the infinite light of the Eibishter becomes one with the vessels. So here you've got a contradiction, a dichotomy. The infinite light of the Eibishter is becoming one with the Kelim of Atzilus, and by the virtue of the fact that the infinite light of the Eibishter is becoming one with the Kelim of Atzilus, the Kelim of Atzilus can facilitate the creation of Yeshus. Why? Because of the Eid, it has the Dveikus and the Moed, and because of the Kelim, it has the Gvul. The Eid is Bli Gvul.
But it's not real Kelim, you call Kelim.
The Chitzeni is a Kelim HaGvul. And Iva Chayechad Mechad means the infinite light of the Eibishter comes one with these Kelim to create Yesh B'Yayin. The Ein Sof provides the possibility for the Yeshus, and the Kelim provides the possibility for Gvul.
That means the Kelim never changes.
The Kelim are Chitzenis HaKelim are Chitzenis HaKelim. And we could lump this about whether it's a Lakus B'etzem or not. The Ein Sof becomes one with the Chitzenis HaKelim. So the Chitzenis HaKelim provide the Gvul, the limitation, the Gvul, and the Ein Sof provides the possibility for Yeshus. So the combination creates a Yesh, which is Gvul. The Ein Sof by itself can't create a Yesh, which is Gvul, because it's Ein Sof.
The Kelim we said before.
The Kelim are Gvul and they're Dovuk in the Moed. I didn't say Me'ein HaMoed. The Oid is Me'ein HaMoed. The Kelim is Iva Gamoyechad just for the sake of Tzavas Yesh B'Yayin. Forget. That was the whole question. How could you say about Kelim, Iva Gamoyechad, they're not Me'ein HaMoed? And the answer is they're Taka not Me'ein HaMoed.
He said it's even possible maybe to say that
there is no Ein Sof in B'Riyah. There's only Er Neshama in B'Riyah. Er Ein Sof is called Er Chaya Yechida, if you want to be consistent about it. Er Neshama means a Lakus, which is Gvul. The Pele is that even though it's Gvul, it's a Lakus.
it's just like
It's not Ein Sof. Right? And Kelim of Atzilus are also Lakus, and they're not Ein Sof.
So Dovuk doesn't mean Dovuk just means that.
Dovuk doesn't necessarily mean Me'ein HaMoed. Right, forget. The Oid is Me'ein HaMoed, and that's a problem because it can't create Gvul.
But doesn't the whole shtashlos come down from the Kelim?
Yes.
Has to have the Yesh. In order for it, that we should be Yesh, every single part of the shtashlos of Feder has to be somewhere is Behelim the Yeshes.
Okay. So the Eid Ein Sof, which is Misyached, or the Kelim of Atzilus, has that Yeshus Behelim. And by being Misyached with the Kelim, it's able to reveal that Yeshus in B'Riyah. Let's do those words again, okay? In order that the Eibusha should make a Yesh, on the one hand using the infinite power of the Ein Sof, and on the other hand the world, the creation should be Bal Gavul Umida, should be limited. So you have to have a combination of two things. You have to have the Me'ein HaMoed from Oyer, and you have to have the Gavul from Kelim. Nisla B'Sheit Ein Sof, the infinite light of the Eibusha becomes one with Kelim, the Tzvidas D'Atzilus, and Tzvidas of Atzilus, with the vessels of the 10 Tzvidas of Atzilus. Becomes absolutely one with them. To such an extent, the Iva Gamei Yichad that we say about Kelim, and perhaps even Chitzenis HaKelim, that they're one with the Ein Sof, Livrei Behen Val Yadan, that using the Kelim of Atzilus, Oid Ein Sof, which is Me'ein HaMoed, and therefore it has the quality of Yeshus hidden in it, has the possibility to create using them, Balagvul V'Tachlis, creations that are limited and with an end purpose. Especially when they go into B'Riyah Tir Nasiya, and this allows for the creation of Yeshus. This will befrat definitely clear what he means. You got it? Even the Neshama in the Guf is a Lakus, but it doesn't have the Iva Chayei, Iva Gamei, the Dveikus quality to Beit Yesh B'Yayin. Huh?
It's not Dovuk.
It's not Dovuk, right? It's like Kelim of Atzilus without Iva Gamei Echad. On the Shama is a Lakus, but there's no Iva Had Neshama Chad. That's all.